Hello, my name is Hollow, and this isn't Monster Hunter. It's actually Dauntless. You might have heard of it. Yes, I'm finally checking out Dauntless after a few years now. I played this one during its original betas and around the release, so it's been a while since I played this Monster Hunter alternative. Since its launch, Dauntless has seen big content updates and most recently content overhauls and changes. The newest update, Reforged, completely changed how hunting is done, so we do have a lot to talk about. It's a bit of a controversial update for this game, but this game is free to play on PC, PS4, Xbox, and also it's on the Switch. But the big question is, should you play it? So whether you love Monster Hunter and just want an alternative, or maybe you played Dauntless in the past but want to know if you should return to it, let's try and answer that question. I'm obviously going to be talking about the new stuff in Reforged and what I think about it as mentioned, but I haven't played Dauntless since its initial betas and launch, and there's new weapons and mechanics since I played, and you know what? I really want to talk about those weapons. Weapons are a huge part of a game like this, and it's really important that they both feel good and look good. Personally, I've been really enjoying the axe, but I have played with and tried every weapon in the game, and you know what? The axe might actually be the least creative design, but mechanically it just feels great. It's basically the great sword from Monster Hunter with the charged attacks, but it has these hints of switch axe. There's an infinite combo swing, for example, moving while charging, which is an absolute dream, hyper armor on certain charges, and it feels great, even though, yeah, it's pretty simple. In contrast to that, if you look at the hammer, well, it's a hammer where you bonk the enemy, but this hammer is also a gun. It has these shells that you can blast the enemy with from range, or boost around like someone who doesn't value their own limbs. In the same motion that you bonk an enemy, you could also blast it, and who doesn't love reloading a melee weapon? Then the sword is a bit more plain visually. I mean, it's just a sword, but its unique effect is the whole build and spend meter. You power up the weapon, unleash a special mode, now you're doing more damage and have access to combos and abilities. These three are probably the three core weapons, I'd say. You get what they're going for. They're pretty basic mechanically in concept. The Warpike will be familiar to you insect glaive players. This is a glaive but without the aerial combat and movement. Instead, it's basically a mini bowgun and a glaive together. You'll build up your energy and then spend that on powerful ranged hits using that gun aspect of the weapon. But if you're looking for a more dedicated ranged weapon, then we have the repeaters, which is dual guns to use to blast the monster. Despite their range, the closer you are, the more damage you're going to do, and actually you get new abilities to fight by stealing the power from the monster when you're right next to it. This powers yourself up and allows you to unleash new, more powerful versions of your attacks, which come on short cooldowns between your basic shots. This is also one of the more customizable weapons too, because you can change the barrels, the chambers, the grips, and the prisms to create a build and playstyle that you like. And then the chain blades. This is the one that I played the most in the betas, and it kind of remains as I remember it. Like the dual blades, you got big multi-hit combos with very fast movement. Because these blades come with chains, you can swing them at a pretty respectable range, giving you some nice options for attack, but we can leap in, jump out, combo close up, range the monster down while zipping around to avoid hits. This felt like the most mechanical weapon back from what I think was just 4 in the beta, which gives us a great comparison as we look at the most recent Dauntless weapon, the Strikers. This monk style of play in which you're using gauntleted fists has a very flashy nature and pretty cool movement too. The Strikers use a mantra system, so you have your basic combos like any other weapon and interesting dodge movement, right? But these mantras let you stack up to 3 at once, and depending on how many you have, you will unleash a different finisher. So depending on which combo of attacks you use, you generate a specific one of these 3 mantras, and then each special that you can unleash requires 1 or 2 or 3 mantras. The first one, the Tempest Form, will give you an attack speed boost, and then the second one, the Karma Breaker, will smash the foe in the face and then deal damage over time, and then the third one, Adamant Bolt, will shoot a beam of energy like some sort of superhero. So a bunch of different combos, all with different effects that build different mantras to spend on different abilities depending on how many you have. This is a clear evolution of Dauntless's weapon combat to me. It's just got a lot more going on. Problem there though is that this weapon was actually added in 2019, so it's been a while since Dauntless got a new weapon, and this last weapon was such a step up from the rest. You know, imagine what they would do next. Right now they have 7 weapons. I think that's a good number of weapons to have, but the sheer difference difference in weapon quality and those mechanics compared to where they started to their most recent new weapon, I think is big. So hopefully they're working on more new weapons for the future. Generally, I think the concepts of the weapons are pretty good. They look good, they feel good, and they're all really easy to understand and pick up and use very quickly. The downside is the reduced depth of the weapon mechanics. Overall, I think you've got less options than if you're using a Monster Hunter weapon. I think they're fantastic out the box, but I do wonder about long-term fun, since yeah, there is just less you can do with these things. Now let's talk about monsters. They're known as Behemoths in this game. Just like weapons, I think these are visually great, and the concepts are wonderful. The monsters match the different elements of the game. There's 6 different elements, and there's a couple neutral monsters too. And like I said, in concept, I love these guys. There's this Earthbender type that uses rocks to shield itself, but also attack. The old Shrike as well in an early hunt was great to see again since I first fought it in the beta, but with its now much improved visuals, which is actually, you know what, this one's an airbender if we're doing that, throwing its airstrikes and tornadoes and it zips around the battlefield. I think this looks and feels great to fight, but it gets a bit more awkward when the monsters are bigger. For example, the Charog in the big event form, or the subspecies that's poison mode. There's just a lot of hip checks and turn attacks where it hits you randomly. And overall, I feel like there's a lot of monsters that are maybe more mechanically lacking compared to others. So yeah, I like the concepts and designs of these monsters, but I still think they're a bit mechanically lacking. Whether you compare this to Monster Hunter or not, these fights are generally only a few attacks and they're pretty easy to manage. Things obviously get harder as you go and you get to more endgame monsters, and the most recent monsters are always going to have the most going for them, just like it is in late game Monster Hunter. But there is a big problem with fun concepts and design while lacking on the mechanic side of things. A major issue I find in Dauntless with the monsters is the hip check mechanic, in which a monster will turn around to face another enemy, right? Or even you, and then that turn deals a bunch of your health. It's really annoying to take damage from something like that. It's that old Plesioth mechanic from old generations of Monster Hunter games, and it sucks. The last thing I want to talk about before we talk about Reforged is the visuals of the game. I am a fan of this style. The colourful world is really nice to look at and just be in. The hub, let me tell you, it's so much better than I remember it. It used to be this pile of woods and stairs. Instead, it's this nicely well-designed, simple and organised base. The weapons and their effects are perfect for this world. The armour, I like their designs. They're both a bit cool and silly, like old-style Monster Hunter. And like I said, the monsters in concept and design do look really good. I like them. Though I am sure this visual style might not be for necessarily everyone, because obviously it's less serious, a bit more cartoony. I do think a lot of people are going to be into this. But now let's talk about it, because as I explained at the start, the core of the game has recently changed, and in a big way with that Reforged update. Instead of choosing to hunt a specific monster, going and hunting that monster and then leaving, we now have the hunting grounds. Basically, you will queue up for a region that has a set amount of potential monsters in it. So if you need to go hunt a specific monster, you will go to the island that that monster can spawn on and hope that it spawns, while also exploring those areas to find resources like plants or maybe chests. And you'll be using that new glider we have to swoop around the area for the new movement you will need, because the terrain is kind of all over the place. I think it feels great. I mean, the terrain is obviously designed with gliding in mind. There's lots to hop off from high to glide, or make use of those air vents that act as boosters all over the place. This is the first time that Dauntless has properly encouraged exploration as well, and I like it. Each hunting ground does have its own biome and layout, and there's actually 18 of these total. So there's a lot of variety there. They look great, but it comes down to 3 or 4 areas that you'll explore with resources and monster spawns. The positive side of all of this is how you can jump in and hunt a bunch of Behemoths back to back to back to back without interrupting gameplay at any point. The matchmaking will slot you in with up to 6 players in one hunting ground who might be after a different monster, or you're all attacking the same one. Either way, this matchmaking definitely makes group hunting a breeze, which obviously brought up the question for me, hey, can I solo hunt in this game? Because obviously it's really not that challenging to group beat down a monster, especially if you've been matched with someone who's over-leveled or over-geared. The answer to that question? Well, of course you can solo hunt monsters. A huge part of monster hunting is about the challenge, right? The practice in which you learn the monster's moveset and behavior. Hell, I might want to solo hunt a monster because I need to break a specific part of the body, and randoms I queue with aren't going to care about that, which is fair enough. I mean, there's hundreds of reasons reasons why I'd want to solo hunt, even if I'm someone who loves multiplayer and prefers multiplayer. So of course, why on earth would they remove such an important mechanic to any monster hunting type of game? That's what I told myself when I thought, can I solo hunt in this game? Because yeah, it turns out they actually did remove solo hunting in Dauntless. That is incredible. So apparently, as a result of a poll they did with a, quote, small sample size, they claimed that most players solo queue to save time on matchmaking. That is such a warped way to look at stats. And from a small sample size? Who did they even ask? This is a gross misunderstanding of what these numbers tell you. You know, I might solo hunt because it's faster, not because of the matchmaking, but because it's easier to fight a monster that has a solo health pool instead of a 4 health pool because I'm playing with 3 people who don't really know what they're doing. Just as one example, one obvious example. You can bet a chunk of the community was not happy with this change. And as a new player, I am not happy with that either. So once again, great concept with a hunting ground. I really like what they were going for, and I do think it's better for the game long term, but it is still lacking in depth, and the whole forced matchmaking with others, and there's nothing you can do about that, gear dude, just killing the monster instantly, or maybe your end game and the people you've been matched with have no idea what they're doing. It isn't ideal, to say the least. But apparently it was too late to change this when they saw the community's reaction, and they're looking into it right now. So hopefully solo hunting will be back in Dauntless very soon. Okay, so Hunting Grounds has mixed results, right? But what about the new progression they've added? The new system is meant to reward players in a more interesting and less linear way than before. Apparently they didn't like the way it was going before with the questing and the set in stone steps you had to follow to move forward, with no real way to know what you're going to earn or unlock next. That brought in the new skill tree they've added called the Slayer's Path. You don't just earn experience and then put points in that to be stronger. There's 2 main aspects to it. We have the main path, which is the long line in the middle that runs all the way from the bottom to the top of 12 milestones that you unlock as you earn the experience. While the paths on the side that are branching off all on the, well, side, you need more than just experience to unlock these, and they're more interesting in concept. You'll need rams and merits or certain tasks and challenges to be complete before you can unlock these, and then your experience and currency you'll need to manage as well to decide which you're going to go for. You won't be able to pick all of these instantly. You'll need to choose. You earn the currency through various gameplay like bounties, questing, chests, and other events found in the hunting grounds. Basically, by playing the game, you get the resources necessary for this. And that means you can focus the type of content that you like to do personally, which is ideal. Because you can actually unlock everything eventually, you just choose which to go for first. Maybe you save up your currency and focus a side path that you're going to unlock later because, hey, you can go look at what you're going to unlock in the future. Or maybe you just go for the power that you can grab right now to help with whatever you're doing. I find this a great system. I think they've done well with it. A lot of games lately are letting players choose the type of content they want to do to get stronger instead of forcing mandatory content even when it's something that player isn't interested in. But then there's the new gear. Apparently with Reforged they changed how the gear works a little bit. Now we can craft armor and weapons that are more relevant the moment you make them. I just picked up the game, so I don't know the details of this, but apparently at endgame you previously needed to farm until you could unlock and craft a weak piece of gear, and then you would eventually upgrade it, at which point you'd finally be able to use it. I would imagine that's annoying to like really work for something and make something, and then it's just useless until you pile a bunch of resources into it. However, with the new system, they had to do away with the old one, right? Which took away gear people had previously farmed and crafted and upgraded. Therefore, some people are a bit upset because they had their stuff taken from them. They have said that they brought the progression over though. So if you've been playing in the past, you would be rewarded the resources necessary to convert that strength into the new system. So it shouldn't be that big a deal. That seems fair enough to me as someone who didn't have to deal with this, and it seems like a positive change long term for the game. Now, yeah, this is a free-to-play game. Monetization must come in somewhere, right? And that seems to be the Hunt Pass and the store. The Hunt Pass is your standard Battle Pass system. Play the game and hunt, earning rewards on a track through any main activity. The free-to-play version does also reward things, but the best stuff will obviously come from the paid version that they call the Elite Track. It's cosmetics, emotes, resources, useful stuff, and a good way to support the game while also earning things for your character. I think this system works very well across many free-to-play games. Other than that, there's also the shop, which appears to let you buy certain cosmetics and more specific stuff rather than engage in a system that requires effort to to unlock those rewards, but that appears to be the monetization for this game. I think it's fine. So in conclusion, is Dauntless fun? Is it worth playing? Well, whether you're playing before or after Reforged, Dauntless remains the free-to-play Monster Hunter Lite. I think the new systems are good for the game long-term, but they have some problems that need addressing. It's good to me to see the game get important changes and improvements that I feel it needs, but the changes have obviously come with awkward additions people clearly take issue with, like removing solo hunts. Because this game is free, I think this is well worth a try for anyone interested in Monster Hunter. Maybe you're feeling that lull on Monster Hunter content right now while we're waiting for Rise or Iceborne finished. I'd say there's a good chance you're going to enjoy this if you're open-minded and just want a different Monster Hunter style of gameplay, but if you don't, it was free to play, you lost nothing. Ultimately, Dauntless is never going to be as in-depth and as long-term satisfying as the Monster Hunter series, but I see it as a good alternative, and I'm glad it exists. And even if there is issues with this overhauled recent Reforged update, I'm glad they've tried to progress the quality of the game for its main audience. Hopefully they can still address those issues and then move forward to what's next after that. But that's everything I have to say about Dauntless. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I hope this video was either interesting or useful to you. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. But until next time, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching.